Hello there, my friends. Welcome to the Glow Up Method. This is a place where we talk all things wisdom, transformation, all in this effort to live our own personal best lives. Hi, my name is Natasha, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. What a privilege it is to sit in this chair. I appreciate you so much, and I am so grateful for the moments that you take to spend a little bit of your day with me, and I hope that you guys gain some little bit of nuggets and wisdom and through my stories that you can take with you throughout the rest of your day and throughout the rest of your lifetime. And perhaps, there'll be just that moment that you're like, hey, I know some lady that knows a lot about ACLs, or hey, yeah, this happened to somebody I know. These stories can then help other people. That's the real goal here, and really help. I'm one of those people that, again, I came from such a low place, and I was so foreign to myself. I became so foreign to myself because I thought that everybody else was more important than me. I thought this is just the role in my life, and that, I was of service to everyone, and that was it, but not myself. And so I know the darkness of the depths of just complete abandonment, not only from others, but of myself. And that was the worst abandonment of all the abandonments I've experienced in my life. Parents, significant others, cousins or whatever, family, friends, whatever it is. None of those hurt in which the way the abandonment of myself did. And I didn't even know it at the time. I just thought that was the way life was. And so this process, this journey has been such a remarkable thing for me. My mindset has shifted. My thought processes have changed. And again, I say this to say because people often say people don't change. And I'm living proof. I'm literally living proof people can change if they want to. If the reasons are right and they have their why and they are consistent with it and they're resilient when there's setbacks and you celebrate the wins, change is possible. And so today, what I really wanted to talk about was the change that it took from going from this lady here at 300 pounds to what I am now. Last I know, I've lost about 140 pounds. Could be more, could be less. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But I thought about sharing my weight loss journey today and having that be the focus of today's episode, because for whatever reason, over the last few days, I have gotten, it's just interesting where the focus goes, right? So I've got a lot of feedback in regards to my physical appearance. I have also gone to a doctor to talk about the apron belly, because not that I care. It's not that I care, but I am doing anything I can to really alleviate this pressure on my lower back. And, right now, part of my leg is numb. The shot, as much as I was adverse to it and sat in pain with it, it was like today at one point when I was dancing in class, I was like, I am so grateful that shot existed. I am so grateful that I finally had the courage, thanks to one of my dancing classmates over there that, shared her journey and her experience and answered any questions that really helped me. So that's why I'm so passionate about sharing stories and wisdom, because through her story and through her successes and through her failures, I learned, and it gave me the courage to do something I was really scared of, and something I really was again, feeling like I'm just in pain. That's Natasha's story. Natasha and pain are synonymous with one another. You just push through, you get through. But there are options to alleviate the pain. And so when I was this big, I was in a lot of pain. I mean, you don't understand unless you've been this big to understand that everything you do, from getting into a car to getting off a sofa to, walking around a grocery store, there's a lot of physical pain. There's a lot of emotional pain. There's a lot of mental pain. There's a lot of judgment. Are people looking at what I put in my card and everything you're putting on the check stand? It's okay, if I have one bag of chips, I better have 10 pieces of fruit to offset it. And, if there's a cookie, then I'm like, yes, I have 4 kids at home. That's why there's cookies here. Obviously, girl is eating the cookies. Okay. And so it's nobody's business what I'm buying in the first place, but it was a painful place to be. And I would often do my shopping in the cloak of darkness. I'd go at like midnight where no one could see, and I could fill my basket with all the goodies and junk that I wanted, and nobody, would hopefully be in there to cast judgment on me. And really, I was judging myself. I was really at the root of it. Like, should I be buying this? Should I getting this? And even if it is for my kids, do I want my kids to be eating these things? But this was very comforting. This was what, in my mind, a good mom did. A good mom provided like goodies, but they also provided, it was more balanced, the nutrients. And, like I wasn't embarrassed about the lettuce in my cart, and I wasn't embarrassed about the apples in my cart, but I was embarrassed about the Oreos and the Doritos, right? Or the 12 pack of soda that my kids don't drink soda and I was drinking. So, there's a lot of pain. There is a lot of pain. You have the physical pain, right? You have the mental pain. You have the knowledge that like, I have fatty liver disease. I have high blood pressure. I have high cholesterol. I'm pre-diabetic, and that I'm really taking days, minutes, moments off of my life. And if my whole being and everything I want to do is surrounded by my family, that is just inevitably less time with my family. And it's this really interesting conundrum to be in. And, there were so many times in which my lifetime, like I said on here before, I wore this as a form of armor. Like I really told myself like, well, if anybody loved me, they're going to love me at this size or they're going to love me smaller. Like this will keep the weirdos away. Was that always true? No, it did not keep every single weirdo away, but I really had this belief that nobody would like me. Nobody would love me if I was overweight. That was part of the conditioning. Like, like my family was all about their appearances, and, like my like aunties and dad and things like that. It was very, very into like vanity and the way you looked and magazine covers. And even when I wasn't overweight, they were like, you have such a pretty face. You'd be pretty if you were skinnier. And like, just all these stories kept swirling in my mind. And so I came to this place where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be big and embrace it. I'm going to eat all the cookies. I'm going to eat all the things. And that's just the way it's going to be. And it was for a long time. And I was okay with it. Like in some ways I was okay with it. Like I was just content with like, that's what it is. And it just seemed so big. Like it had snowballed so far out of control that like the challenge of, going from that to this just seemed monstrous. It just seemed impossible. Until I did a lot of these trainings with my uncle, right? Like, so he would do these things called lessons. Like I've said on here before, my uncle was my mentor. He was my guru. He was me, but talking, like he would talk with me, and it was a little bit more interactive. Obviously it can only be so interactive with a cell phone in front of my face, but it was this really symbiotic thing where he really kind of led the discussions, but he really would prepare in advance and say, here's what the lesson was. And he would set a timer, make it 30 minutes. So of course, when I was, trying to figure this all out, and I'm so sorry for those of you stuck in with those 1.5 hour episodes. Holy smokes. Like I put myself to sleep multiple times rewatching, and I was like, oh my gosh, let's just not publish these. You have so many. But I was like, no, the whole point is to show life, when you make a decision, it doesn't come out perfect right away. It's about the consistency. It is about showing up and figuring it out and falling on your face and being like, I don't like it like this. Let's make some adaptations. So the fact that I've kind of landed on this 20 to 30 minute episode, usually about 30 minutes, it just seems so fitting, and it is very reminiscent of my uncle. But I remember one day when I was saying, gosh, it just seems so impossible. It's like, it's impossible. Like I have just neglected myself for so long. Like it would be absolute torture, because in my mind, becoming healthy meant a lot of punishment. It meant a lot of sacrifices. It meant a lot of pain. And I just naturally did not want any of those things. Yes, I wanted to be, at that time, my focus was to be of a certain physique. That was the kind of like loose goal in my mind, right? And so, yeah, it just wasn't enough of a why. So I would start something, stop something, start something, stop something. And then I just said, forget, I'm not doing anything. And, when everything kind of came together and all the stars aligned, somebody said I deserve to be happy. I found myself on the side of a mountain, just like literally like a shell of a human. Like I can't exist in this fashion anymore. Just the pandemic hit. There was just so much upheaval at one time that my body was a little bit in shock. My mind was a little bit in shock. And I just needed this space. And thankfully I found it in taking walks, right? Like, and I just needed this place to understand that I had never really shown up for myself. I had never, ever, ever like gave it my all. It was always for something, that my why was not strong enough. And then somehow in the midst of this perfect storm of life that all kind of collided at once, I had this revelation. I had this vision of my grandkids at a park, and I had a vision of playing with them on the ground, and I just had all of these things, and getting to see my kids and be at their weddings and their graduations, and I had all these visions, and it seemed so possible then. My guru, my uncle, was like, nothing is impossible. In the word impossible, it says I'm possible. And I was blown away. I was like, how many years have I been saying impossible or writing it? And I never saw it. It was right there in front of my face. So for, like I say, I always love putting, things around the car. I have stickies on my window, my mirror now. And this has all been a new thing for me since my transformation, like my health journey began, my everything, this whole process. But they have been these really grounding statements that connect with me here and keep me grounded and motivated when, I'm sometimes feeling a little bit flustered and unsure. So I'm possible was like the going theme for, like, I wrote it on, we have one of those boards where you have put in the tiles and you can write whatever you want on it. And I'm possible was like one of the things on there. And so I really, really, really was super grateful for that. And that reminder to be like, yeah, I am possible. Like, it is possible. It may seem like this ginormous uphill battle, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like, I get to define how that relationship goes with myself and this journey. And so for me, number one thing was define what my why was. And I didn't know. It wasn't like, today I'm sitting down and defining my why. No, again, like I said, everything kind of collided exactly as it was supposed to be as soon as I relinquished that control. Like, I had seen myself. So my daughter was a 2020 high school graduate, right? Like, we had all the just craziness, but that was her high school graduation. And, we were in the living room and I decorated still, and we watched there, and my brother had snuck over and my mom had snuck over, and, my brother was like a complete surprise. And we took these photos, and I was wearing this dress. It was like a black dress, and I had sunflowers. And of course it was one of the few dresses that fit me. So I was like, score. Like, it wasn't like, is it cute? It's like, does it fit? That's the like, are you coming home with me thing. And I think it was actually bought at like Amazon, to be fair. So I had on this dress, and I thought I looked so beautiful. I really did. I was like, oh, I look so good. Like, it fits me. And then I saw a photo of me, and I was like, who's this girl? Like, who is she? And why is she in our family photos? And I just remember like looking at my arms, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, my arms are the size of, like, bigger than some of my kids who are soccer playing athletes' thighs. Like, my arms are ginormous. And I just saw those arms. And then I saw the belly, and I was like, wow, like, wow, this is really, really, really gotten away from me. And so this is like May of 2020, late May, almost June. And, I kind of was a little bit in shock, and it kind of had started sitting with me. That was kind of like the moment when I was like, something's amiss, something is off. And I don't feel like that person that's being reflected back to me. I'm sure I was still spunky and fun. And, my kids did say I was awfully hangry sometimes. Like, it was hard just to function. It was hard to get up. It was hard to get into a car and out of a car and up a stairs, and nothing ever fit. And you're just literally between the high blood pressure that I wasn't taking medications for, and the high cholesterol I wasn't taking medications for, and everything that was going on. I felt so like ick in my skin. Like, I felt like electricity in my skin, and I felt like pressure, and I just felt kind of on edge. And, it just was an uncomfortable way to be. And I just felt snappy because of it. And so I'm just so blessed that everything happened as it happened, right? Like I really started getting into my writing. I really started taking like these little walks and really got some clarity on what I kind of wanted my life to go. So the first thing we do is we have to define what it is we want, right? Like why? Like what is your why? And for me, like I said, it was really based upon my family and these future grandkids that have yet to be born, and those relationships. It was so important to me. Like I've said before, my grandma was my like soulmate. She was my bestie boo. Like I can never not smile big enough when I think about her. Like my heart like warms. And if there is an afterlife or there is whatever it is, like I am so freaking pumped to like reunite and give her like the biggest hug that anybody has ever seen like in life. Like, oh my gosh, like just to smell her again, like as I hug her, maybe it's like, oh grandma, like just to hear her voice again, like just it's like angels and harps, just beautiful, beautiful. And so that relationship that I hope and envision I will have with my grandkids or something similar to was a real like motivating factor for me. And again, I started really small. Like for me, there was never 100, like I literally didn't think I could do it in the first place. Like I didn't, like there was nothing like, I got this, it's gonna work, I know it. Heck no. Like when I first started losing even 5 pounds, I was like, it's coming back. Like there's no way that this is not coming back at some point in time. Like there's just no way. I'm not getting rid of clothes because I'm too cheap. And if I get rid of the clothes, then I'm going to gain the weight. Now I'm going to have to go buy back more like super fat clothes. And I don't want to go buy more super fat clothes. I'm just going to wear my ugly super fat clothes right now that I have here. And so, sorry for the not politically correct, but that's just how I felt at the time. And I would then, I just kind of doubted. I didn't trust the process because every other time I had attempted, I failed. But the difference this time was I knew my why. And I knew the second key to my success was to create consistent habits. And so they didn't have to be big, and it was going to be small, like starting so small. It was not going to be, I'm going to adjust my food. It's not going to be, I'm also going to adjust my working out. Like I wasn't going to 0 to 100 real quick. It was like, pick one aspect, pick one area in which you can improve and celebrate that. And when you get really comfortable with that one, then you can grow and expand and add something else in. So for me at that time, which ironically, like you wouldn't think, like the easiest of the two was to start to integrate some form of movement. I did some analysis thanks to my watch, and because there had been a time in which I was really dedicated to my 10,000 steps. And it wasn't until after my auntie passed away, which even during the time of all the chemo and all the caring, like I was still getting my 10,000 steps. However, after she passed away, I got really depressed, and that stopped. And so I gained back the little bit of weight that I had lost from that, doing that. But that's where I felt like I could start here. I'm going to start, but I'm not going to start at 10,000. I'm going to start at like 2,000. I'm going to start really slow because it's now been, a year and I haven't been walking at all. So again, I started with those like 1 block walks and just, each time going a little bit further if my body would allow. Like if I was struggling to get to even the same point, I would be like, listen, today we can take it a little less. Like just being really kind and really accepting of where my body was on those particular days, and knowing that like I can push myself a little bit further, but don't push yourself to the point of like extreme pain. Like this changing hurts. Like they're called growing pains for a reason, right? It's not this smooth road. It's a bumpy process. So buckle up, babies. Like it's go time when you're ready to make a change. And, your nervous system is out of whack because it knows one way, and now you're, it's wanting to survive, and you're doing these things that you're like, no, this isn't our survival mechanisms. Like we're not on board for this. Like I haven't used these muscles in years and things like that. So for me personally, it was an easy habit to do because to start back, because I had done it before and I had been successful and at least committing to that. So, it was a slow and gradual process. And then from there, I slowly started to kind of like portion control. I used to eat seconds, thirds, sometimes fourths. I would eat that breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, board, whatever it was, a lot. And so it was like, okay, well, what can I adjust here now? And so it was like, okay, I'm going to cut out soda. Like, I don't really need the soda. Like, let's start with that. Cause like right there, that's like 200 calories or, I don't know what it is, but like whatever it is, like that's just a great place to start. Like this week we're going to do, no soda and more water and getting into that habit. And then it was like, okay, instead of having fourths, you can have thirds. And instead of, then time processes. And then instead of doing thirds, you can have seconds and kind of just slowly kind of tapering down instead of being like fourths to half a, eating like a rabbit or, half a plate full, like here's your portion. And now you're starving and you're hungry and you're feeling deprived. And instead of celebrating the fact that you've made progress, you're punishing yourself and you're like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm freaking starving. I'm hungry. I'm complaining to everybody and anybody who will walk by. I'm grumpy. My body is tired because I don't have enough fuel in my tank to like process and move. So starting really slow and celebrating those wins versus jumping all in and being like, here's my new crazy exercise freaking routine every single day, 2 times a week in the gym. And here's I'm not eating anything to even sustain that type of a workout. No, it's too much, too fast. It's all about being 1% better each day. And so this means it's a slow process. And I know, I get it. Like nowadays, everything is so instantaneous. We have TikToks and YouTubes and all these things, like everything, data and information comes in so fast that oftentimes we don't have patience, myself included, which is why I have Patience is Power on 2 different locations to remind me that my power is when I'm patient. And obviously, so this process, I had to exhibit an enormous amount of patience and being able to just enjoy in each meal I ate. Like sometimes I would take a bite and put the fork down and just chew for 20 seconds. And I was like, dang, I never just realized what was in my mouth. It was like scarfing it down, like getting to the next one, like in this hurry to eat that I'm not even enjoying the meal. I used to love these, and I still kind of do. They're just not as like, for a while, they were the bee's knees for me. I kind of go through phases, but they were these C's Candies, little milk chocolate balls. And I would put them in my mouth and they would just melt. And instead of having like 1, 2, I would eat like half a bag of them. And that was like 10, I don't know maybe how many are in there. I would just keep popping them, drink a glass of milk, keep popping them. And as I began this process, I was like, okay, I'm not going to deprive myself. As I said, I eat a sweet every day, no shame, no game. And that today is like part of what is making me right or talk about this subject because, people were coming up and they're like, what do you eat? And you've lost it. I mean, that means you probably aren't eating like sweets. Like you must have changed your diet. And I was like, I eat everything and anything. I drink anything and everything I want. There are no restrictions as to what I put in my mouth, only what time I put it in my mouth. And even that, it's loose. Some days it's not, it's not, I would say a good 95% of the time, it's my habit. I'm consistent with it. But if I'm ever hungry early, I eat. And if I'm ever hungry late, I eat. And if there's a party or something, a lunch with a friend, I eat. There's no, it did take a while to have the confidence that I will go back and that it wouldn't mess up everything. I was very, very, very to it in the beginning. And I needed to be, have that discipline. Otherwise it was just going to get away from me. Like I knew my own personality that I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start back again Monday. Like, it's fine. But it wasn't fine. So I knew I needed that. And like I've said on here before, I remember it was one night in the summer, kids were up late cooking popcorn and doing all these things. And there's just something about the smell of popcorn. I can't even say the only popcorn I love is like a movie theater popcorn or like a cheesy popcorn. I do like that. But just the freaking microwave home popcorn isn't like to me like all that, but it smells so good. And suddenly, I wasn't hungry, but now here we are, we smell the food and I want the popcorn. And I remember my son came up and he was like, I'm really sorry that you can't eat. And, for a minute I kind of was sorry too. And then I was like, no, hun, like, here's the thing. Like, the kitchen is open to me. It's just, I'm choosing to not. I'm choosing to adapt to this new type of eating schedule. And so that gave me my power back. It was like I was being punished and you can't eat. It gave myself this sense of freedom to be like, wait a minute, I can't eat. I'm not in jail, like nothing is happening. I can eat whenever I want to eat. I am choosing to eat in these times and see if there are any benefits to me by my weight, by my mental clarity. Like, I had done a vast amount of research on it. And so I had my uncle, and he was more of a long-term, like, faster and believed in that. But I thought intermittent fasting was this avenue in which I kind of had the best of both worlds, right? Like, I could eat anything I want. I could have pizza. I love pizza. I could have burgers, but I could also have salads and chickens and, whatever else there is. But like, wait, what? I could eat pasta and bread and dessert just as long as it's in these hours? Like, this seems like a no-brainer. Like, sign me up. This is a diet I can do, and it wasn't a diet. It was like, originally I thought it was, but for me, what I've learned, it's a lifestyle adaptation. And I love it. Because again, I'm really good with a calendar, and I'm really good with discipline, and having these guidelines and staying within them, because I like to follow the rules. And so, I ended up starting doing that. And then again, like, the weight just started to come off. Now, the focus, a lot of it was on the physical when you're walking and other things. But during these walks, it was fascinating because there was so much going on and being processed as I stepped away from my reality. Like, I was able to have these experiences of discovering who I was, like being out in nature and just being outside and not being on my phone or not always listening to a podcast or a YouTube or a music. It was just being really present with myself. It gave me this other additional layer of the weight loss, which was this personal kind of healing journey. And so, yeah, it's taken me a long time. When people ask, well, how long has it taken you? And I was like, I don't know, I started in 2021. It's 2024 now. So like 3 years. And, they're like, you look amazing. And I was like, thank you. Like, you're my scale. I appreciate that. Like, I'm doing nothing different day to day, like, than I've done all along. But the only thing different is I'm healing. Like, I'm healing. I'm not doing any more. On the contrary, I'm doing way less workouts. I'm at like 10,000 steps because I was at 20,000 and I had an injury. And what I've realized by taking it back is, like, I was eating enough to sustain 20,000 calories. I eat 10,000, I eat a little bit less. So it's like, it balances out. It's like, do you just want to spend, more of your disposable time working out and eating, which is fine. But right now I don't have as much disposable. I got to work. I got to figure out how to get the lights on for everybody. Like, mama is in control. Mama is trying to figure out, like, do I want to rekindle things with my ex, like soon to be ex, whatever we are? I don't know what we are right now. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. Like, is this worth fighting for my family, or is it time to say goodbye and go that way? Like, it is a really strange time in my life right now. So, I say all that to say, like, having these things in here and realizing that, like, this journey for the weight loss for me, it's a holistic approach, right? Like, it's not just about the physical. If you focus only on the physical, it's not going to be successful. I mean, it will in the short term, but you have this whole journey, but it starts to snowball. Like, it happens. It's not like you set out. Like, for me, it didn't set out to be that way. It just happened. Like, I didn't plan it to be that way. So you have to know your why. You have to have the courage to be consistent, especially on the days when you don't want to. Like, there's so many days where you're not motivated, and especially in the beginning. And until I found this community, like, when I was just doing YouTubes by myself, there were days that I was like, I just don't want to. Like, I just don't want to. Like, I've done this routine 35,000 times. I feel like I could be teaching this routine. Oh, wait, here's another YouTube commercial or whatever it is. Like, I lost my motivation sometimes, but I still got up and I still did it. And some days I was still, I wasn't as healed as I am now. Like, I would have days of like depression and not feeling well. And I would say, okay, fine. You're allowed to be depressed and you're allowed to lay in bed, but you got to do your steps first or get them done. Like, and there were times that it would be down to the last minute. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get my last steps in, like, hurry up. And now it's like a part of my day I look forward to. I have it like scheduled in. Okay, here's where I'm going to do it. And it just really works out well because I know how long I need. I know how many steps this thing is going to take, so I have a nice plan and rhythm now that makes me feel really safe and comfortable in this journey. And I say all that to say the most important thing to do is figure out your why. The second is commit to yourself to show up, especially when you don't want to. Starting super, 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 super small. I'm telling you, 1 pound, 1 block, 1 piece of progress. No restrictions as far as what time and what's the time frame. I need to lose this 1 pound within 1 day. No, be very kind and gentle to yourself. And when you fail, like when there's failures and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do my steps. I got so carried away. You don't beat yourself up about it. Or you got an injury and you can't walk that day. Find what you can do. That maybe that day you're going to stretch. Maybe that day you're going to do yoga. I had a lot of stretching days in the beginning. I had a lot of yoga days, but those really helped me, especially when my body was so out of shape, to be able to maintain that kind of a lifestyle. My body was out of shape. It was in a shape, but it was not conditioned to move. So not only moving the big muscles, but also moving all those little bit muscles in there and being very sympathetic and empathetic and loving and nurturing yourself by stretching and listening to soft music or doing a form of yoga was so beneficial. And then the next part of it is celebrating your wins. Celebrate it. Every pound is hell yeah. Every time you got up and did a walk, yes, I did that. I could have done anything I wanted in that time, and I chose to walk. And good for me. And was it easy? Was it cold? Was it hot? Whatever it was, I still did it. I showed up. And it starts to build this confidence. It builds a confidence in yourself. And so, yes, right here, right now, I'm talking about my weight loss journey, right? But that same pattern, that same model can be applied to anything, whether it be doing a YouTube, writing a book, getting a new job. You start small. You want a new job? Do 1 application today. You send in your thing to, one place. That's it. You write 1 page, 1 paragraph, 1 sentence, whatever it is. Keep the day-to-day goals very small and start building that confidence as you grow. And so I love sharing my weight loss journey. It has been the best thing for me, and it has nothing to do with the way I look. Honestly, it has everything to do with how I feel mentally and spiritually. And I'm so damn proud. I literally say all the time, of every version of me, I am the most proud of her because she had it the toughest. She had it the absolute toughest. She had to decide to do it. And that's the hardest part. I've already got momentum. The ball is rolling. It's easy for me. Sometimes I run, today I just had, before I sat down here, I just did 3,000 steps. I didn't even blink at it. It was literally nothing. And before, that was a really tough thing to do. I mean, that was oh my gosh, I just did 300. I need to take a seat. And so I have the luxury of having her and every day up until today's commitment to ourselves. And so I say all this to say, I really hope that you know that maybe for you, you're not having struggles with your weight, but it could be something else in another area of your life. But the same lessons and the same, areas of success, what is defining your why, starting super small, being consistent and showing up for yourself even when you don't want to, building that resilience when things don't always work out. It doesn't mean you have to quit. It doesn't mean you're doing wrong. It means it's time maybe to pivot, adapt, accept, whatever it is. And then the last thing is celebrate the freaking wins because you're awesome. You're amazing. You are on a growth journey, a transition in your life, and you deserve to be celebrated. You are literally amazing. There is one of you and only one of you, and this is your one and only life that we are aware of. So go out there and live one that makes you proud. I am so proud of you. I adore you. I thank you so much for showing up again today. I am so excited. I have 99 subscribers as of today. How cool is that? Oh my my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm about to hit triple digits soon. And so I say all this to say, I adore you, I thank you, and I support you. Please comment below, like, subscribe, do all those good things. So that helps me bring more content to you guys. Thank you for showing up. If you could please do me one huge favor today, please go out there, give somebody a big smile, give them a compliment, and just watch how they glow up. So thank you. Bye.